I just wanted to wish everybody, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, because you will be seeing this after Christmas, and a Happy New Year, and I hope 2012 brings everybody happiness, health, and hopefully prosperity. God bless everybody.
Hey folks, we're back. Alan and Greg, we're doing our thing out here in the winery. Holidays are behind us. It's the new year. 2012 looks like it's going to be pretty exciting. Here we go again. You know, we go through the whole process. What's really fun this time of year is it's quiet. All right, we've got time to do different things. We can get to maintenance. We can listen to the wine and hear what it's doing. We've gotten all that harvest and crush behind us, and it's nice to just be able to enjoy the holiday season. And now we're back to work and see where we're going to go for 2012. And you know, it's really fun seeing the fall hit the vineyard. Now we're into the pruning. We might catch some of that later as well. But what we're going to do today is talk about the actual aging process of the wine. And what we have behind us is our 2011 Estate Petite Syrah, and it's, what do you call it, storage vessel. But it's a barrel, okay, but it's a storage vessel. So, Alan, why don't you take us through the whole process here?
Sure. Well, hi everybody, Happy New Year, and welcome back to the winery. I'm Alan. And Greg and I were in the cellar here just talking about some of the wines we made this year. Petite Syrah in particular. It was a very cool year. Saw some really interesting changes from that in the vineyard. Saw some really intense color development and some really intense aromatic development because of the cool season. One of the things we were talking about in here previously was what's going on in the barrel right now. What's happening in the process. And one of the things that's happening right now is we're crawling through our secondary fermentation. Two fermentations in wine. There's the primary, which is sugar to alcohol, and there's the secondary, which is bacterial, which is one type of acid to another, malic to lactic. Changes the texture of the wine, makes it more microbial, stable too. Right now that's taking place in the barrel. You'll notice these barrels are bunged up with a two-piece bung. And the reason is, as the wine goes through its secondary fermentation, it's off-gassing, much like it does during primary fermentation, giving off carbon dioxide. It does this as well during secondary, but it does it at a much slower rate. So this bung actually allows that accumulating carbon dioxide to vent out. If we did not use these, we would have a little fireworks shooting off out of the barrel, because eventually there would be enough pressure underneath the bung to blow it out. Yeah. We talked about, or when people talk about wine, they also talk about all its sensory attributes. There's the visual, there's the olfactory, but there's also the auditory. And one of the neat things about wines that are going through Emile is you can actually put your ear on the barrel and you can hear the snap, crackle, pop of the off-gassing carbon dioxide. So that's one of the things that we're listening to right now. When I come in here and decide whether or not we're making progress, one of the things I'll do is I'll put my ear on the barrel. And I'll say, is this barrel dead or is this barrel alive? And then based on what I'm hearing and kind of understanding the wine and how it works, I can then start to actually make quantitative or qualitative analysis to figure out whether or not the malolactic fermentation is done. At which point then we'd add sulfite to the wine, that preservative that everyone's familiar with, and the wine would start to move forward along its lifespan.
It's rounding out and it's aging.
Yeah.
So I noticed on a thermometer in the bottling room there, it's about 53 degrees in the warehouse here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to slow things down a little bit. Is that
absolutely,
correct?
absolutely. Like any metabolic process, like, you know, just think about you as you start to get cold and
right.
things start to just like get a little stiff.
Hypothermia, like
exactly. This bacteria likes to slow down. It's pretty temperature dependent. So if you actually bring the temperature down low enough, you could stop the secondary fermentation. So, but it likes to be right around 60 degrees there. So we're kind of on the slow side right now.
Right.
But when wine, if anyone's ever heard of how wine comes back to life in the spring, that's what they mean. It goes. A lot of times, what happens is, at the end of primary fermentation, everything starts to get really cold, and the wine sort of shuts down, goes into hibernation for the winter. Right. Comes springtime, temperatures warm up, cellar warms up, that malolactic fermentation kicks off, and you get a second fermentation. This year was a really interesting year, and everyone can attest to that, because we really didn't have a summer. You know, everybody kept waiting for it to get warm, and it just never really did. It was a surprisingly cool year. But consequently, we got some really intense color out of this year. Cool years tend to lend themselves to more dark fruit. But what also happened is we saw a lot of characters, a lot of intense aromatic development, because we had a really long hang time this year. I mean, people were delaying harvest.
Sure.
On and on and on. And fortunately, here, although we did get rain during the harvest period, we weren't inundated like, say, some of the North Coast appellations. Right. Those guys really got hit hard. I understand that some of the bricks up there, they were bringing in Cabernets at 21. And that's just really frustrating.
Right.
So we did not suffer that same kind of impact here. We actually got our calves right about 24 where we wanted them. But we were playing a balancing act. We were watching the weather. What's going to happen? Okay, it's going to rain. How much can we accept? Okay, it's rain. Now what? Let's go out and assess the fruit.
Right.
You know, is the mold starting to grow? Are we going to lose? There's all these little equations that are starting to go off in your head. How are we going to handle it from this point forward? Because the situation kept changing. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with what we got. Well, we were down about 30% from last year, 30% from normal. And I think across the whole Central Coast area, I think that was a fairly consistent finding. I think the Chardonnays got pretty hit hard in the Monterey appellation. I understand they were quite a bit down. Mm. But by and large, I think people will be pretty satisfied with the vintage as a whole.
Paso had a frost. The North counties, you know, they got hit with that bad rain. We're just really lucky here, and I think that's why. You know, in the mid-19th century, early 20th century, the Italians and the Portuguese settled in this area predominantly because of the climate and the soil conducive to any kind of agribusiness, whether it's an orchard or a vineyard or whatever the case may be. It just tends to be more temperate, which is very similar to the Santa Lucia Highlands at the same time. I remember seeing a climatology study done of that region, and it's a region, it's the most temperate in California. It never goes below 50 and never goes above 80, wow. Which is just right in that operational temperature of the vine and the wine. So it's pretty fascinating, the different climates, and why they planted up north, because it's the worst climate in California for wine. But hey, it is what it is, right?
Better watch out, somebody might
hit me, right? Anyway, so well, with that, I think we should go take a look at the racking process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a look and see what's going on.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay. Okay, hi everybody. I'm outside here at the winery. We're in our racking area. What we're doing today is we're racking our 2011 Santa Clara Valley Sangiovese. We're about 1 month out from our primary settling. So the wine was pressed into a tank. It was allowed to set in the tank for about 3 to 5 days, and then it was racked off the gross lees, which is all the heavy accumulated dead yeast cells and detritus or whatever the case may be that was in the liquid when it got pressed. So all that stuff got left behind, and the wine then went into barrel, and you can see the barrels here behind me. Javier back here is actually refilling the barrels. What he did this morning was he came out here and he drew the liquid off each one of these barrels, and in that process he left the sludge in the bottom. As soon as he drew that liquid off, he took the barrel and he flipped it upside down like this, so the bung hole, the opening was facing down, and he rinsed the barrel out. And he washed out all of that sediment inside. And all we use to wash the barrel is cold water. The material inside is very loose, very fluid. It's very easy to remove from the barrel. Once the barrel was clean, we brought the barrels back upright again, and Javier is refilling them. One of the things you can't see, when we started our racking, what we did is, rather than, typically you want to avoid air contact with wine, but when a wine is young, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times when people draw wine out of a barrel and put it into a tank, they'll fill the tank from the bottom valve. That minimizes the agitation of the wine. It minimizes the air being imparted into the wine. Well, what we did is when we filled the tank, rather than going to the bottom valve, we went all the way to the top of the tank to a door on top, allowed the wine to free fall inside the tank until it made contact with the bottom of the tank. It allows some aeration of the wine. A lot of times after fermentation, wines can have a bit of a funky character. They need a breath of air. They're almost somewhat human in nature. They just need to come up for a breath once in a while. And so we give them that opportunity to draw in a little bit of breath. Also, a little bit of air in wine can help build its structure over time, make it a more stable wine over the long term. So once all the wine has been put back in the tank, all the barrels have been emptied, all the wine has been put in the tank. We mix the tank. We take a sample. We make an assessment. We decide where we are. We make some notes about impressions, how it smells, how it tastes, how it looks, and then we put the wine back in barrel for about 3 months. And we're going to revisit this wine with this exact same process in 3 months. Each time we enter into this process, the act is we are clarifying the wine because we're leaving more and more settled material behind, and we're also homogenizing the wine. We're bringing all the pieces together so that it's a uniform whole. So that's where we are at this point in the year. We're going to do this through all our 2011s, and then the next big step is to go back to our 2010s and give them, what we will be doing is this exact same process, but then we'll be doing it with an eye towards blending for our bottling blend. So that's probably the next time you'll see us. Thanks, Bert.
All right, so that's pretty much a wrap on what we did today. We're out here in the vineyard. You can see that this head train Carignan has already been getting started on the pruning. You can see our folks in the background behind us. They're working right away. It's been cold enough in the morning, so the vines are shutting down, and we can go ahead and start our pruning. We've got a lot of stuff to eat.
It's kind of scary.
It is kind of scary. So how many acres do we have here, and how long do you think it's going to get them to get through all the pruning process?
Well, collectively we have just shy of about 50 acres, and it'll take these guys probably till about February. They'll be working into February. We want to get everything done by March, though, because we're probably going to start seeing some bud break at the end of March. It's amazing how fast this comes.
Yeah.
You know, just when you got your vintage in the barrel, you're thinking I can relax. Well, think again.
Yeah, right. It's ongoing, and we're going to start picking up here in another month or so, where we started this whole video process, and that's with the oak trials. And we'll probably be going through some library wines. We have to reassess the library at this point. There's only 4 bottles in the tasting room at this point. And let's see what else. We're going to be working on the oak trials again. We've got to get those profiles going for the 2011s, reassess the profiles for the 2010s. And we're going to be busy, apart from everything else that we do around here. Let's see, a couple other reminders. Coming up in February, pay attention to the website, Facebook page. We're going to be doing Bottle Your Own once again. So the first one, I believe, is February 25th. So check the website for the exact date. But I've put them all up at this point. We'll have other events coming up as the year goes by, of course, and we're looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. We had so much fun last year or so. We're going to do it again this year. And did we have fun today, Alan?
We had fun today, Greg.
Great. Glad to hear it. See you, folks.
Bye-bye.